Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over how to build a small system to store information about movies. So here I have a class already set up. It's going to have the title, the director, the year. I have some properties for each of these instance variables. I have a parameterless constructor that initializes everything just with some plain data. And then I have one method here that displays the information of this object, right? So this display information will display one title, one director, and one year for one movie, right? So that's part of the class as well. So this video is mostly going to focus on in the main, where we're going to try to set everything up to build the system. So let's get started with that. Okay, so we're going to store the records for the movies in a text file. Let me go back here to main. Alright, so here we have the title of the movie, the director, and the year. And then here we also have the title of the movie, the director, and the year. And that corresponds to our properties here of title, director, year. This number here, though, this is the size that we're going to have to use for the array. Right? And as we start adding more records to our file, then we're going to need to update this this number here. So right now we have two movies, so there's a 2 there, but our program needs to set this first line here in our text file, needs to set it to 3 if we're going to add another movie. So then we could do something like Star Wars. The director is, let's say, George Lucas. And the year, I'm not sure, I believe it was 1976. Alright, so then that's a new movie that we added, and then the size goes up to 3. So our program will need to do that. So I'll show you how to go about it. Okay, so let's start with our namespaces, our import statements. So we'll do using system, and then since we're going to be working with files, we also need using system.io. And this is the movie test class, so we'll do public class movie test. And then here our main function, public static void main string args. Okay, so then what we'll do too is we'll create several public static methods to kind of help us out a bit. The first one we'll start with is public static void one to load data. The next one we'll need is maybe public static void display all movies. And also we'll need another method to help us add records. So we'll call it public static void add movie. Alright, so we have three, I guess, helper methods here that we're going to develop. Right, I haven't set the parameters yet. We'll do that in a bit. I guess we just kind of have to think about it for a little bit and then decide what would be the best information to pass to each of these parameters. Of course, keep in mind that this display all movies is going to display everything in the array, which is going to be different from this here. This only displays information for one movie. This method will display information for all movies in the array. Okay, so the first thing we'll start with is the array of movie objects. Right, so the data type is movie array, so you have to put the little brackets. We could call this obj movies, and we'll initialize it with new movie, and we'll just put a default size of 1 for now. Okay, so we have this array, this container that will at least hold the information for one movie. Okay, so then the next thing we can do is perhaps set up some sort of menu. Okay, so we can prompt the user, maybe console dot write line make a choice from 1 through 4. Okay, so let's create a variable to hold a choice that the user will make, because we're going to use a switch statement. So int choice, and then what I'm thinking is maybe using this as the prompt instead, so I'm going to cut that out. Something like that, and then choice will equal convert to int 32 console dot read line. So then based on their choice, then we'll have a switch statement. We can have case 1, and I'll put a break. And then maybe case 2 break, case 3 break, and then default for now, just put a break. Okay, so if they make choice 1, that means we're going to load data. So that means we're going to call the load data method. If they choose 2, then we'll call the display all movies method. 3 add movie. Okay, so that way our menu system here that we've set up, that way it can repeat itself as many times as necessary. It might be a good idea to set up a do while sentinel controlled loop, do while choice is not 4, right? So as soon as they choose 4, that means they want to end the program. All right, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get all this stuff. I'm going to get the menu. I'm going to cut it out. So cut, and then I'm going to paste it here. And then maybe each time the menu displays, we could clear the screen. So here at the end, after they've made their choice, we can clear everything. I think that's console.clear. Okay, so I think at this point we should probably test this out, see how it looks. So I'm going to do Control F5. Alright, so it says load data, display all movies, add a movie, or exit. So I'm going to just do load data. So you see, so it repeated itself and it cleared the menu originally. 2, same thing. 3, and of course none of these methods are doing anything because we haven't programmed them yet. But we're hoping that if we do 4, our program will close. Let's just press any key to continue. Okay, so then we can just close it out. Okay, so our menu seems to be working okay for now. So let's continue with actually creating the rest of the functions. Okay, so we'll begin with load data. Right, our data, we want it to be stored, we want it to come from the text file, and we want to store it in the array we set up. The array we set up is this here, OBJ movies. So we're probably going to want to pass that array, and we're going to want to pass it as reference because we're going to be modifying it, making changes to it. So to do that, let's go here to load data. So we're going to pass that array that we created, and we're going to pass it by reference. So we're going to do ref. The data type is movie array, and we can use the same name, OBJ movies. Right. So then now we'll pass that array to this method here. Okay. So then once we do that, then first thing we want is our stream reader. Stream reader. We'll call it reader. And we'll do new stream reader, and then we'll pass the file path. So that would be movies.txt, and we should have a movies.txt in our folder initially. So let me go here, let's go to open folder in Explorer, go to bin, debug, and there is a text file here, and that is the same one we're looking at earlier. All right, so we already have that. And for your assignment, I will pass that text file to you, so that way you have it, and you can just put it in the bin folder initially. Okay. So then the first thing we need to read from our text file is going to be the size of the array. Right? So we're going to read the first line. The first line says 3, so we need that information. So we're going to create a variable called int size, and we're going to set it equal to, we're going to convert what's in that text file, int32, and we're going to do reader dot read line. Right, so that'll read the first line and assign that value to our int here. Okay, so then now what we're going to do is, this array is originally pointing to or this array variable, I'm sorry, is originally pointing to an array of size 1, right? But since we have 3, not 1, we need to fix that here. So we're going to reassign OBJ movies, and we can do this because we're passing it by reference. And I'm going to create new movie array, and I'm going to use the new size that I acquired from the text file, right? So now this variable is no longer pointing to this array or this information here. Now it's been reassigned, and it's being reassigned to a new array of size 3, right? And you don't have to worry about what happens to that other array in memory, because C# is smart enough to get that extra memory that's left over, and it does discard it, or the garbage collection will take care of it, right? So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so now that we have our new array that we've set up, and see, this is, I guess, what you would consider a dynamic array, right? Because initially we started with one size, then we're getting a new size, and then we're creating a different array, right? So it's more dynamic. Usually the size of the array is fixed, but here we can do this. Okay, so then let's create a for loop. We'll do index 0, and then while the index is less than obj movies dot length, right? Length and size are the same. Consider that the same thing. Plus plus. All right. So this for loop will run based. The number of times it'll run will be based on the size of the array. So in this case, the length or the size is 3. So it's going to go from 0 to 3. Or actually 0 to 2, because it's less than 3. All right, so 0, 1, 2, that's 3 times. So then the first thing we do with our array, and we've done this several times already, right? We're going to start with obj movies with the first element in the array. So that's element 0. So the index is at 0. And we're going to assign a new instance of movie. So we're putting a movie object now in the array. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to do obj movies dot index, and then we're going to call upon the properties of the movie object. Since now we assigned a new object to it, we have access to that information. All right, so dot title, and then we're going to read the second line in our array, which is the title, Terminator. So then we'll do reader dot read line, right? So then that'll get the title. Okay, so then the next thing we need is obj movies index dot director, and that'll be reader dot read line, and then the last piece of information. So we're reading the title, the director, and then the last thing we need is the year. So then we'll do obj movies index dot year, and that's going to be reader. I'm sorry, year. If we look at it in our properties, It's an integer, so we're going to need to convert that. So convert to int 32, and then we're going to convert reader dot read line Okay, so that's going to go through the title, the director, the movie. Then the loop's going to run again, and then it's going to do title, director, movie, and then it's going to run one more time, title, director, movie. And then once we're done reading the information from our text file, then we need to not forget to close it. So that's reader.close. Okay, so that way we can test our program out. Let's go ahead and code the display all movies. And then here you see that I added the movies array here as a parameter, right? And load data here is passed by reference. This array is not passed by reference, we pass it by value. So make sure you have that there. And then in your method calls here, for load data, make sure you're passing it by reference. And then for display all movies, make sure you're just passing it by value. All right, so this we didn't add originally because we're just setting up the stubs, I guess you could call it. Yeah, so this is passed by reference here, and then display all movies has to be passed by value. So that's why I have this here now. Okay, so then once you have that, then what we could do is just do a for loop. So for int index equals 0 while the index is less than obj movies dot length, and then index plus plus. Alright, so for each movie we want to display the information, right? So we have a method for that here in our class that's just for that. So then we'll do obj movies dot index dot display information. Right, so depending on the size of our array, this is going to run that many times. So in this case, obj movies, we load the data first, it'll be size 3. Okay, and I think now at this point we have all this. I think we're ready to test our program. So let's go ahead and do Control F5. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to load the data. Press enter. And then the next thing I want to do is display all movies. Right, and then you saw at that point it displayed, but then it went away. I was like, well, what happened there? Well, the problem is this here. We're doing console.clear. Right, as soon as the method runs, then we clear the screen. Right, well, a better idea would be to, I guess, hold the screen so the user can read the information, and then when they're finished reading it, then they choose to clear the screen themselves. Right, so the way we could do that is we go back to display all movies, and then here we do console dot read key, right, and that'll wait for the user to press a key So then that way once they press it, then the code will continue. It kind of halts the program a bit. We can also give them a notification too, something like console.writeLine. It's like press any key to continue. Okay, so that might work out a little bit better. Also, what I would want to do too is clear out the menu when they're going to display movies. So before they display, I want to clear out that menu that was there. So I'm going to do console.clear here as well, and that'll clear out the screen, so it's a little bit more user friendly. So Control F5. So then our menus here: load data 1, display data 2, and that displays all the movies in our array, right? Because we loaded it initially, and then we display them here. Now it's waiting for us to press a key, and then we go back to our menu, and then we can display again if we want. So that works a little bit better now. Also, it would be a good idea to let the user know that we loaded the data. So we could probably copy this, Control C, I'm sorry, and then paste that there, and then we could give some sort of indication that data loaded. Press any key to continue. Control F5 again. So here, let's load the data. Press any key to continue, and then display. Okay, so the next thing we're going to work on is being able to add a record to our array and to our text file, right? Because we have to update both of them, right? So that's going to be the job of add movie. So first of all, we're going to need our we're going to need our array. We're going to need to pass it by reference, and we're going to do movie, and then we'll call it the same obj movies. Right, so this one, since we're going to be making changes to the array and modifying it and those things, it's best to just pass it by ref. Okay, so then first thing we're going to do, before we were adding, we were reading from the file. Now we're going to write to the file. So in this case, this method will need the stream writer. We can call it writer, the variable name, equals new stream writer, and we're going to write over our file, right? But we still have our movies available to us because we have the array that's holding on to them, right? So then what we need to do is update the size, and then once we update the size, then we add the new record on top, and then we put the old movies that were there before, we put them back in the text file. Alright, so first thing we want to do is go to writer, since now we've completely wiped out, with this line, we've completely wiped out the data in our text file. But if we still have it in our array, then we haven't lost it yet. Alright, so then we're going to write line, and what I'm going to write here is going to be the length of the array dot length plus 1, right? Because originally we had 3. If I'm calling the add movie method, that means I'm going to have 4, right? So 3 plus 1 equals 4. So then that'll give me an opportunity to add a new movie, right? And we're updating this. So this is all this is going to delete itself, and then it's going to put a 4 here. And then the next thing we want to do is prompt the user for new movie information. So first thing we can do is create a movie object, a single one, right? This is in an array. And we'll say new movie, and then we call our parameterless constructor. And then here we need to ask the information, the user for the 3 pieces of information. All right, so we'll start with console.write. We'll just do write, and then we'll say enter title. And then whatever the user types, we will set temp.write line. I'm sorry, not write line. Temp title. We'll set it equal to whatever the user types. So console.read line. Alright, so the user will type a new movie like The Matrix. That matrix will be stored in the title property of our temp variable. So then we need to do the same thing for the other 3, or the other 2 properties as well. So then here we'll prompt again, enter director. And then here we will store the director. Console.readLine. We'll get whatever the user types and put that in our variable. The last thing is the year. So we'll do console.write enter year. And then we'll do temp dot year equals, and then whatever the user types, we need to convert it to int 32. Oh, sorry, I forgot the dot. Console dot read line. Alright, so the user will type a year, 1976. I'll convert that to an integer, and then I'll store it in the temp variable. Okay, so now we have all that data. Next thing we need to do is, maybe comments will help. So here we create new object. Here we collect data from user, and then the next thing is write the new data to new, or just to text file. So to do that, we use our writer dot, whoa, writer, sorry, did I call it something different? Oh, I called it write, sorry. So writer dot write line, and then we're going to write the first piece of information. So that's temp dot title. Then we'll do writer dot write line temp director, and then we write the year. Writer dot write line temp dot year. And you don't need to do toString here. Do toString. I mean, you can, but it's not necessary because it will change it to a string automatically when it writes it to the file. So you can just leave it like that. Okay, so now we write the new information to the movie. We write the new information from the new movie to our text file, but then we need to save also the information that we had before. Right, so then now here we need to put old movies back to text file. So then we can do that using a for loop. So we could do something like for int index equals 0. Index is less than obj movies dot length index plus plus, and then we need to write the information from the array back to our text file. So then we'll start with writer dot write line, and then we're going to do obj movies index dot title. Right, so then that'll get the title from the first movie, write it back to our text file. Then we'll do the same thing for obj movies index dot director, and then one more time for the year. Okay, so then we write all that information back to the text file. Then we close the file because we're done with it. We wrote the new movie. We added the new data to the text file. We wrote the old data back. Now we close it. Close. Okay, and then very important last step is, now that we have a new movie, we have another text file. Oh, here I forgot to put writer. Okay, there you go. The only other problem now is that our array doesn't have the new movie in it, right? So we need to update our array. So then we have a method for that. It's called load data, and we pass obj movies. Right. This method here, right, because we passed this array, we got the original information out of it, we made all these changes to it, and then finally we're going to load it back into the array, and then hopefully if we try to display that information, we should be able to see it. Right, so it's going to require quite a few steps here. So this is probably the most complicated part of this program. I mean, you could do other things to this. You could add other methods to sort, to search, right? And it'd just be adding more static methods and more menu choices, right? And y'all should know how to do that by now already, right? Because that will come up later in the future in your future courses, right? Okay, so I think we're ready to test this out. Control F5. Oh, we have an error. Let's see here. No overloaded method takes 0 arguments. Oh, okay. So here under add movie, got to make sure you pass by ref the that should be fine. Control F5. There you go. Okay, so first and foremost, load your data. 1, data loaded, press any key. Now let's add a movie. So I'm going to do 3. Enter title, The Matrix. Director, I'm just going to put my name. The year, 1999. Press enter. Data loaded again, right? Because we recalled load data. Okay, so now if I display, not only should I see those other 3 movies, I should see the Matrix on top as well. So hopefully it works. And it does. Right, so we have the Matrix here, the Terminator, the Godfather, Star Wars. Let's try again. Add movie. I'll put Dracula. The director, Francis Coppola. Year 1994, I think. Press enter. Data loaded. Display again. Right, and then now we have that, and our array keeps changing dynamically. It keeps holding this new information, and then from there we could do all kinds of things, right? But I think this video is already long enough, and this program is long enough, and as long as you can do all this, I'm satisfied, and I'd be very happy with that. Press any key to continue, and then let's exit. One change I will make is when I'm going to add a movie, I would like to clear the console. So console.clear, and that way I can clear it out. I think that's about it for that. What I'm going to do is, I know there's a lot of code. I think what I might do is I might provide this code to you so you can try it out yourself, you can see it, and that way you can have that as a reference, not just what's in the video. Okay, so I think I'm going to end it there. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me. Thank you for watching.